Welcome to BCBA mock exam. Today's focus is one of the most confusing concepts for BCBA candidates: response generalization and stimulus generalization. They sound similar, but they're not. Stay with me, and by the end of this session, you'll know exactly how to tell them apart and remember them forever. Calm mind, clear logic, confident exam. Let's get started. Question 1. A client learns to greet her therapist by saying hi. Later, she begins saying hello and hey to greet others. What is demonstrated? A. Stimulus generalization. B. Response generalization. C. Maintenance. D. Shaping. Take a second. Which one would you choose? The key question to ask is, did the response form change, or did the stimulus change? Here, the situation stayed the same, greeting people, but the response changed. That's your first hint toward the right answer. So how do we approach this kind of question? Remember the quick rule: same stimulus, varied response. That's response generalization. Same response, varied stimulus. That's stimulus generalization. In this question, the person said hi, hello, and hey. Different responses, same situation. That means the correct concept here is response generalization. The answer is B, response generalization. The learner produced several functionally equivalent greetings: hi, hello, and hey. All of them work as greetings in the same social condition. That's variation within one response class. Stimulus generalization would be the same response across different contexts. Maintenance would mean the same behavior over time. Shaping would involve reinforcing gradual steps toward one new behavior. Here's your quick takeaway: same stimulus, varied response equals response generalization. Question 2. A child learns to label a picture of a cat. Later, she labels a real cat, a cartoon cat, and a stuffed cat. Which concept is demonstrated? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Discrimination. D. Maintenance. Here's the question to ask: is the same response, cat, occurring across different stimuli? If so, that's stimulus generalization. If the same verbal response appears across different exemplars, that's stimulus generalization. Look for changes in appearance or context, not in the response itself. Here, the word cat stays the same, but the objects change: picture, real animal, cartoon, toy. Same word, different stimuli. That's the hallmark of stimulus generalization. The correct answer is B, stimulus generalization. The same response, cat, occurs across multiple versions: a photo, a toy, a real animal. It means the behavior is now controlled by common features shared among these stimuli. That's strong concept learning, not just rote memorization. In short, same response, new contexts equals stimulus generalization. Question 3. After being taught to throw a ball underhand, a child also throws sidearm and overhand. What is this an example of? A. Stimulus generalization. B. Response generalization. C. Discrimination. D. Shaping. Different forms, same function. That's your hint. When multiple topographies achieve the same goal, it points to response generalization. Ask: did the skill expand into new forms of doing the same thing? Yes, underhand, sidearm, overhand, all get the ball moving. That's multiple variations of one learned behavior. Different topographies, same function. That's response generalization. Correct answer: B, response generalization. Reinforcement of one throwing form led to other, functionally equivalent forms. This shows flexibility within a response class, a key sign of mastery. Stimulus generalization would mean performing the same throw across new settings. Shaping would mean gradually changing one form, not creating multiple forms. Remember the key phrase: same behavior goal, different forms, response generalization. Question 4. A student reads the word dog in black ink. Later, he reads dog in blue ink and italic font. What is demonstrated? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Discrimination training. D. Prompt fading. Is the behavior identical, but the stimulus changed slightly? If yes, that's stimulus generalization. If the same reading response occurs under different visual conditions, color, font, or size, that's stimulus generalization. Look for changes in stimulus characteristics, not in the behavior itself. Don't confuse it with response generalization, where the response form changes. The correct answer is B, stimulus generalization. The student performed the same reading response even though the visual details changed. This means the behavior is controlled by the relevant feature, the actual word, not by color or style. That's robust stimulus control and exactly what we want to see in fluent reading. Question 5. A child learns to say cookie to request a snack. Later, he says, I want cookie, or give me cookie. What is demonstrated? A. Stimulus generalization. B. Response generalization. C. Multiple control. D. Verbal shaping. The function stays the same, requesting, but the forms of expression expand. That's response generalization. Ask yourself, are there new forms of the same command? Yes, different ways to ask for the same thing. When a learner expands their verbal repertoire within one operant, it's response generalization. Same function, new expressions. That's what we aim for in language flexibility. The correct answer is B, response generalization. Different verbal forms, cookie, I want cookie, give me cookie, serve the same purpose, getting food. The learner has built new ways to achieve the same communicative goal. That's what real-world communication looks like. Stimulus generalization would be using cookie with different people, not creating new phrases. Keep it simple. Different ways, same goal equals response generalization. A client is reinforced for saying thank you after receiving items from a therapist. Later, he says thank you to teachers and peers. What does this show? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Maintenance. D. Discrimination. Same behavior, new situations. That's stimulus generalization. The response, saying thank you, stayed exactly the same, but the people and settings changed. That means the stimulus conditions changed, not the behavior. So this is clearly stimulus generalization. The correct answer is B, stimulus generalization. The learner applies the same thank you across different social partners and contexts. That's generalization of behavior beyond the training setting. Exactly what we want in therapy. If he had said thanks or appreciate it, that would be response generalization instead. A student learns to complete math problems on paper. Later, the same student solves identical problems on a computer. Which concept does this represent? A. Stimulus generalization. B. Response generalization. C. Transfer of function. D. Maintenance. The skill is the same, but the environment or materials are different. That's stimulus generalization. If the context or materials change, but the response stays identical, that's stimulus generalization. The student performs the same problem-solving behavior, just in a new setting, the screen instead of paper. That's learning that transfers across contexts. The answer is a stimulus generalization. The same behavior applies across platforms, from paper to computer. This means the learner understands the concept itself, not just the environment where it was learned. If he used a new method to solve, that would be response generalization instead. A learner is taught to sign drink to request water. Later, she says drink vocally. What's demonstrated? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Verbal transfer. D. Discrimination. Two different ways to do the same thing. That's response generalization. When a learner produces a different form of the same behavior, for example, moving from sign language to speech, the function stays the same, but the topography changes. That's the definition of response generalization. The correct answer is a response generalization. The learner switched from a signed response to a spoken one, both serving the same communicative function. That's response generalization across modalities. Stimulus generalization would involve the same response across new stimuli, not a new way of responding. Different forms, same purpose equals response generalization. A child learns to wave goodbye to his teacher. Later, he waves to his parents and friends when leaving. What is this? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Discrimination. D. Extinction burst. Same action, new people. That's stimulus generalization. The response, waving, stayed the same. But the context changed. Teacher, parents, friends. The behavior generalized to new stimuli, new people, new settings. That's stimulus generalization. The correct answer is B, stimulus generalization. The same gesture now appears under multiple social conditions. That's how real-life learning works. The skill extends beyond training. If the child had used a new gesture, that would be response generalization. A learner is reinforced for saying, "It's hot," when outdoors. Later, he says it's too warm or it's burning. What's happening here? A. Response generalization. B. Stimulus generalization. C. Verbal chaining. D. Intraverbal expansion. Different phrases, same meaning. That points to response generalization. If multiple verbal expressions serve the same communicative purpose, that's response generalization. Different topographies, same control by the same environmental condition, the heat. The correct answer is A. Response generalization. The learner expands expressive language while referring to the same stimulus, hot weather. Different sentences, same meaning. That's the beauty of flexible verbal behavior. Stimulus generalization would mean the same response under different environmental cues, not multiple ways to describe one. And that's it. You just mastered one of the most confusing pairs in the BCBA task list: response versus stimulus generalization. Here's your rule of thumb. Same response, new situations, that's stimulus generalization. Same situation, new responses, that's response generalization. Simple, powerful, unforgettable. If you want to keep mastering tough BCBA concepts like this, visit bcbamockexam.com for realistic mock exams, flashcards, and analytics. Study smarter, not harder, and I'll see you in the next lesson.